everyone, I'm the Enforcer, and welcome to the Day 195 summary. Of course, it is the 1-year anniversary of this YouTube channel, and I am completely over the moon about that, honestly, because in case you all didn't know, this channel did start off as a current events channel, and then it got changed into a gaming channel, and then once the Ukraine war started, that's when we came back in force back to current events. So it's an incredible day for me, and I wanted to celebrate it by making this little premiere. And so without further ado, let's go over day 195's news. Sorry about that. Starting off in Russia, in St. Petersburg, where we saw today that a website in Russia is showing that the Russians need more men, and they're trying to recruit as many as they can by even putting ads on this website. So without further ado, here's the video. Let's try and get that graphic quality up, and we can see as they scroll down, there's a little ad, and it's telling Russians to join the army. I don't know about y'all, but that's kind of making it look like the Russians are running out of men. With that, we're now going to be moving on out of the Russian news and on into Ukraine itself, as the Russians have been having an incredibly tough time in the Kherson region. Now, I did make sure today, as usual, to not violate the operational security standards that the Ukrainians have set out to all social media influencers and everyone else who's been reporting on the war, except for one, because it seems like the Ukrainians are pretty proud of this fact. Now, a while ago, we were not able to report on, well, actually we did report that the village of Vyskopillya had been taken. However, it appears that our information may have been false, and the Russians have been holding on to it this entire time. Today, the Ukrainians officially declared, both through official channels and through video sources, that the town of Vyskopillya has been recaptured as the Ukrainians raised a flag over the town. Here's the video of that happening. Let me mute that real quick and put this on max graphics. You see the Ukrainian soldier walking up to the house and raising the flag on top of it. And according to official sources today, this is one of 3 brand new villages that the Ukrainians have been able to capture today. A massive figure of villages, considering that there's about 40 to 50 settlements on that side of the Dnipro River. That's the end of that video, and it's great to see that the Ukrainians have retaken another village. With that, we're now going to be moving out of the area of Vyskopillya and further down the line, more towards the direction of Davidiv Brid, although we are not sure if any of these markers and their locations are accurate beyond them being in the general Kherson area. So with that, we're now going to check out some abandoned Russian positions. Of course, connecting 2 and 2, we don't have to get the official declaration for this, and also I was willing to show this because you can't really tell where this position was. One thing's for certain, if the Russians are abandoning positions, that means they are further back than where they were at the beginning of this day, and so the Ukrainians have been able to push the Russians out of some of their positions today, and here is some video evidence proving it. Once again, great to see, but we really have no idea how much progress this really is. They could have just taken another tree line across a field. This could be 5 miles behind the lines. This could be right outside of Kherson itself. We really have no idea of knowing, but it's good to see that the Ukrainians have made progress, and there is one of those right there at the bottom of the screen. Right there. One of those nasty little Russian MREs. You see him looking around some more and showing off this captured position, and it is a good day, as this means that Ukrainian forces are still rolling forward, although some reports have suggested that the Ukrainians may have stalled. This, however, is showing that they are still covering ground. With that, we're now going to be moving on into the next bit of news further down the line, where we can see the Ukrainians directing artillery fire by drone. This apparently was a Leleka 100, and if we pull up a Leleka 100. Let's see what that looks like. Leleka 100, not the Leleka Foundation. So there's a Leleka 100 drone. I have never seen this thing in the war before, and it is a stocky little fella. I gotta say, that thing looks like a that's what I imagine a pigeon would look like if it was an RC drone. But anyways, moving on from that, here's the footage that this Leleka 100 took as the Ukrainians bombarded this massive straight line Russian trench. Of course, as a quick observation, this trench is almost perfectly straight, save the one area at the very bottom of the screen. And as we all know, educationally and logically, it would not make sense to dig a trench like that due to the shrapnel being able to travel down massive distances without being stopped. But with that, that's the end of the video, and it's great to see that the Ukrainians have been able to pound the Russians today in the Kherson area. Moving even closer to the city of Kherson, from what we know, we can see that the 24th Brigade was also able to hit the Russians today and inflict some casualties. And so without further ado, here's this video as well. We can see what appears to be a Russian vehicle inside of this partially existent tree line, and the Ukrainian artillery is already raining down on it, trying to destroy the tank. Ukrainian artillery, of course, makes the, I guess you could say, the gold standard in artillery accuracy, and we can see here by this incredibly tight spread of smoke billowing out of this tree line, the artillery is as accurate now as ever. We can also see the remains of a destroyed BMP-2 right down here. We can see that the turret has probably had a turret toss competition. And to the left of it, we can see a nest, a trench work of Russian fortifications. The drone is taking a very good look at them, and we can see that they've already taken some damage before, yet it appears that there may still be some Russians moving around or staying within them. The drone continues to observe the battlefield and the front line, trying to take a look at what's going on. And we can see that this position has largely already been hit. We can now see someone running from it towards the left side of the screen. And that's the end of the video. Pretty nice to see that the Ukrainians are still knocking out the Russians across, as far as we know, the entirety of the front line. Now, one bit of news that we heard a while ago, and something that we haven't really touched on much, is that the Turks have provided the Ukrainians with their own version of an MRAP, or an explosive protected vehicle. This thing is called a Kerpi. Now, to pull it up and show y'all real quick, not Kirbich Joseph MD, what in the world is that? A Kerpi is a Turkish armored car. Moving on from the doctor. And we can also see a hedgehog, and apparently that may also be the name for Kerpi. Anyways, we can see right here, a Kerpi Turkish armored car. These things are pretty neat. We know that the Turkish have provided some, but we've never seen them in action until today. And we actually got a lot of videos of Kerpis in action in the Kherson area, but I was only able to show 2 due to time reasons. We're going to have to mute that because of copyright reasons, but we can see the soldier looking out the window into the distance from this Kerpi. We can now see the soldier moving out of the Kerpi and into the open around this tree line. And I'd also like to make a quick note, again, I have to say this in every video, that these video clips are being used under the premise of fair use, because they are being used for commentary and news reporting purposes. We can now see that the Ukrainians have moved forward to what appears to be a burned out Russian Tiger armored car. And they're now moving around inside of it. Or, hang on, that may have just been a very brown looking camo. Yep, that was actually a brown looking camo. That's actually the Kerpi they're getting in. Because I was like, wait a minute, that window layout looks very familiar. And it is, because it's a Kerpi. We can now see the driver getting in. And it seems like something just exploded in front of them. May have been a mortar or a grenade. We can't really tell, but it seems like the Kerpi is now trying to get out of there. Now we're going to see a slow replay of it, and we can see an explosion that occurred right on the side of the Kerpi. But it seems like the Kerpi was A-OK as it continued to roll on out of the area and get out of there. Well, that's the end of the video, and we have a second video of a Kerpi in action, this time from drone. Of course, we don't know exactly where this Kerpi was on the battlefield, but considering that this was released officially by the Armed Forces of Ukraine, specifically the Naval Infantry Division, I'm assuming that this is not violating operational security. And also, I couldn't find any landmarks that were distinct. When you see Ukrainian tank firing into a tree line, and the Kerpi right down there at the bottom of the screen moving along. We now see the smoke billowing out, and even more Kerpis. We now see a Ukrainian tank firing at a Russian fortification again, as what appears to be Ukrainian forces moving forward. The Kerpis are still moving around and positioning in the field and following along with the tank. Fires have broken out within the village as the Ukrainians continue to assault it. The Ukrainian tank as steadfast and brave as ever before, has continued to fire into the village at the end of that video. And so with that, that's all the frontline news we have from the Kherson area for now, but there's one bit of massive news today, and this is the biggest news I've heard so far in this counterattack that's going to change the entire outcome of it. The Ministry of Defense has declared that every single bridge crossing has been wiped out on the Dnipro River, meaning that the ferry is destroyed as well. The Russians are stuck on the western banks of the Dnipro River, and there's absolutely no way for them to get out. I put that down right there just so I'd remember. I would show y'all the Ministry of Defense report, but y'all can find that on the Ministry of Defense's website. If you type in Ministry of Defense Ukraine and click on it, it will say exactly that. It also says it on their Twitter as well, and that is the biggest news of this counterattack so far, meaning that tens of thousands of Russians have now been completely cut off from supply replenishments, reinforcements, or anything else. This is war-changing, and within the next few weeks, we are going to see that start strangling the Russians as they start to dwindle on supplies and manpower. Moving on out of the Kherson area from that bombshell and down towards the Crimean Peninsula, now I'm so excited I can hardly talk, and to the village of Vyskopillya, we can see that the air defenses were active here as they tried to shoot down Ukrainian ballistics. I'm not exactly sure what it was, whether it be a drone or a missile, but we could see the air defenses in action. We could also hear someone apparently shortening the lifespan on their brakes just a little bit longer. But with that, that's the end of the video, and it's great to see that the Ukrainians are still conducting deep attacks into the Crimean Peninsula and trying to knock out Russian strategic resources. With that, we're now going to be finally moving out of the Kherson, the Crimea area, and the St. Petersburg altogether, and into our location unknowns, where we have a few, not as many as the days before, but still some pretty interesting ones. Starting off, we saw Russians retreating on film. And also, this was filmed by a Russian, and look at the absolute state of the battlefield where this guy is at. The SPG on front of him is on fire.
Где?
Smoke covers the field.
Нихуя не осталось.
There's not a sign of vegetation around.
Вот не ноги, руки. Пизда.
Ноги, руки, кишки, пацаны.
Земля вам пухом, пацаны.
Ammunition is exploding inside the vehicle.
Братан. Уходим. Пошли.
Ноги, руки, вот валяется тело. Ну пиздец, все, пацаны. Я регион.
Сука, бля, мы в рубашке родились, товара.
It seems like they're trying to figure out what to do as the ammunition continues to explode behind them.
Сюда! Сюда иди! В машине!
They're now shouting out to others across the field that they may need help. And now they're running away from the vehicle and through the smoldering underbrush. The entire area appears to be on fire. So, now you're back here at the location unknowns again, and that video was abruptly cut off. That is because it showed something that I could not show on YouTube, and I did not catch that or realize that until I was recording right here. And so with that, we're going to be moving on into the next bit of location unknown news, where we can see the Ukrainians trying to shoot down a Russian drone as it continuously tries to call in artillery fire onto their position. Here's the video. Unfortunately, I have to keep it muted due to copyrighted music being played in it. We see the Ukrainian soldiers ducking to the ground after they see the Russian drone above them. We now see the Ukrainians inside of a trench, passing around a canteen as they drink water from it. Or something else, I don't know. They're now firing in the air at the drone. We can see a small little sliver of gray flying around up there, which is the drone they're shooting at. You see the Ukrainians giving the bird to the drone. And it seemed like artillery may have been flying around. We can now see the drone flying over them again. It appears to, of course, be a DJI Mavic, which is the most common, I guess you could say, scout drone used in this war. And now artillery fire is coming down as dust and smoke and bits of debris begin flying into the trench as the explosions fling it up into the air. We can now see the Ukrainians talking over the radio, most likely to a commander or an artillery unit. We now see artillery fire landing in the distance in a massive barrage. It may even be an MLRS that's fired into that area, but I can't really tell you for certain. We can now see one of the Ukrainians has gotten a Stinger, which is a great thing to use against any kind of aircraft, even drones. And that's the end of the video. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see the drone shot down, but it looks like if the drone pops up again, the Ukrainians are ready. With that, we're now going to be moving on into our next bit of location unknown news. We're going to see some Ukrainian soldier enduring some shelling. I really butchered that sentence right there, but here's the video. And this man is going to keep eating lunch. When you have to fight a war at 11, but you have to eat lunch at 11:15. With that, that's the end of the video, and it's great to see that the Ukrainians are still holding the lines and even eating lunch while under fire. With that, we're now on to the next bit of news, where we see a massive drone, a massive Ukrainian drone that appears to be homemade, coming under Russian artillery fire as it's being launched. This thing is a mammoth, and y'all will know it when you see it. Here it is. I believe this may be similar, or it may be an R-18, although I've never seen an R-18 look exactly like this before. We now see them picking it up and carrying it across the street. And then setting it down right under the tree. It appears that it's now begun to rain. Now artillery fire is coming down around them, and the Ukrainians have hit the ground with a massive drone right alongside them. We see that they're now staying low, assuming that there will most likely be more rounds coming in, and that's the end of the video. Still, an impressive drone to see, and very rare that we ever get to see one of these larger Ukrainian drones just on the ground and to scale compared to a person. With that, we're now moving on to our final bit of location unknown news, where we can see that the Ukrainians have been able to get themselves a couple of more war trophies. We're assuming that this is probably in the Kherson area, but once again, we're not entirely sure, so it did fall in the location unknowns. But this is a massive amount of supplies and cash that the Ukrainians have been able to capture intact. With that, that's the end of the video, and still very impressive to see. With that, we're now going to be moving out of our location unknowns and into the Kharkiv area, where we saw in the area of Borshova today that the 228th, I believe they are in a territorial defense brigade, was fighting against the Russians. And here's the video. Let me unmute it real quick. And that's music. And so that gets muted. We can now see the Ukrainians moving forward through the fields. We can see a drone looking down on some trenches, and it looks like they came under fire. We can now watch the Ukrainians continuing to advance and firing off rifle grenades. Now they are still advancing through the thick underbrush and out into the open once more. Now an MLRS barrage is coming down, most likely from a grad. The video ends right there, but still, it's impressive to see that the Ukrainians appear to also be making a pretty decent amount of ground in the Kharkiv region as well. Unfortunately, due to operational security issues, we cannot report exactly what kind of ground the Ukrainians have taken most of the time. And some of that, we're going to be moving out of the Kharkiv region, although we know that there's progress being made, and past the Chuhuiv and Balaklia areas, and Izyum, where there has been no news today. However, we do know that the 93rd is fighting in the Izyum counterattack, although we don't know how that's going either. We're now going to be moving past Slovyansk as well, and towards the area of Dnipro and Ozerne, where we saw that the 108th was dropping some Vogs on the Russians. Oh, we gotta mute that because it's copyrighted music. But we see the Ukrainian here showing off one of the Vog little bomblets. And we can also see the drone that will carry it on its way. It looks like it may be a DJI Mavic again, which is, of course, the go-to favorite of both sides. We now see the Vog being dropped and well on its way. Now, we are back at the map again, and you're probably wondering, what in the world happened? Why didn't I see that? And that's because this video clip as well also was a little bit too much to probably show on a YouTube video. So unfortunately, I can't show the whole thing to y'all, but if y'all would like to see what I was watching in the video clip in question, make sure to go in the description below and check it out, because you can find that video uncut on that map. With that, we're now going to be moving through the Seversk area and also Soledar and Bakhmut as well, where we haven't heard of any massive amount of activity. This actually seems to be one of the quieter areas of both sides of the front right now, as neither side is really conducting a lot of activity here. Now, I'm not sure why, and I'm not sure if that will change here in the future, but so far, there is more activity and more action going on anywhere else in the front line, but in this specific area, and as y'all will know, this is the area where the most fighting has been occurring for the longest amount of time in this war. We're now going to be moving past Bakhmut and Orlivka as well, and down towards the town of Avdiivka, because everything in this area ends with Vivka. And we can see here that a Ukrainian tank was under fire, but advancing down the road at high speed, and appears that it was able to miss being hit by the mortars. When you see the Ukrainian tank right there throwing up a massive amount of white chalk as it speeds down this very chalky road. I don't know why the road's so chalky and the ground around it isn't, but we now see the Russian mortar fire coming down, and this tank is still barreling its way down the road. We now see that the tank took a moment to stop and fire. And we see in the distance where that tank round may have hit. We can see the Ukrainian tank down there on the road once more, preparing to fire its next shot. The tank is standing by, most likely to find a new target, or for the gun to reload, although the gun has probably reloaded in this amount of time. We now see another Russian mortar shell land somewhere to the lower right side of the screen. You now see the drone panning around and looking for any other signs of activity. But it appears that it wasn't able to find any. And a huge credit to the Ukrainian tankers who have been so brave during this war to bear our mortar fire, artillery fire, and other such things and continue to press on. Russians, under the same circumstances, usually abandon their tanks. At least that's what we've seen on video evidence. Speaking about the Donetsk area in particular, we do know that the Russians have been conducting some pretty heavy counterattacks, I guess you could say, or offensives towards the Pisky area, and they have reached the Republic Bridge just south and west of the town of Pisky. However, we have not heard of any progress beyond that. We also know that the Ukrainians in other areas, for example in Marinka and Avdiivka, wow, I'm getting everything wrong right now. They are trying to counterattack in those areas from what I can tell, but it seems like they may be making no progress, or we may not be getting any reports of it. And so with that, we're now going to be moving out of the Donetsk region and to the southern front as well, where there is absolutely no news to report today. You all know that the southern front is one of the quietest areas in this war so far, and it's still that way to this day. We didn't even get any news from Mariupol, Berdyansk, Melitopol, or Tokmak today, which is also pretty exceptional. And so with that, we're now going to be moving up into the central area of Ukraine, where we're going to watch a low-flying Ukrainian Su-25. Well, actually, two of them. Let me change that. There's two of them, and it was impressive to see as this man waves the Ukrainian flag on the highway. And here they come. There they go. Just look at that. Wait a minute. Wait a minute, did we hear that correctly? Hang on. That right there, Matthew is in Ukraine. Now he's not on the premiere tonight, as y'all can tell, but I think we just saw him on video, and that's why apparently he traveled to Ukraine without me knowing. And so let's listen to that yeehaw just one more time. Look at that. Is that crazy or what? And so with that, we've actually covered all of the news from everywhere in Ukraine today, and so without further ado, let's go to Kyiv to listen to the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky here on day 195 of the war and the 1-year anniversary of my channel. And so without further ado, here's the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky.
Бажаю здоров'я, шановні українці. Сьогодні прем'єр-міністр Великої Британії, великий друг нашого народу, Борис Джонсон, залишає посаду. Але вірю, що він не залишає політичну діяльність і ще продовжує підтримувати захист свободи в Україні, в Британії та у всьому світі. Я говорив з ним сьогодні. Як завжди, це була дуже добра розмова. Зазвичай кажуть, що дружби в політиці не буває, але Борис – це той випадок, коли розумієш одне одного з півслова. Коли дружба є, коли вона міцна, коли вона дійсно посилює обидві наші держави. З перших хвилин російської повномасштабної війни проти України і Європи Борис був з нами. Його першим і найважливішим запитанням завжди було, як ще можна допомогти. І хочу підкреслити, і до 24 лютого ми завжди відчували, що Британія разом з Україною. Нам за кілька років дійсно вдалося вивести українсько-британські відносини на найвищий рівень за увесь час нашої незалежності. Це безпрецедентно високий рівень. Ми підписали дуже амбітну угоду про політичне співробітництво, вільну торгівлю, стратегічне партнерство. Ми зробили дуже багато для посилення зв'язків між нашими суспільствами, економічних, соціальних, культурних. Ми започаткували програму оновлення українського флоту. І зараз, у час повномасштабної війни, домовились про конкретну участь Британії в програмі відбудови України після бойових дій. Сьогодні я подякував Борису від імені усіх українців. І я впевнений, що це дійсно багатомільйонне українське дякую. Вже чекаю, коли можна буде продовжити нашу співпрацю з Борисом у його новому статусі. І не менш чекаю початку співпраці з новим прем'єр-міністром Великої Британії пані Ліз Трас. Ми в Україні добре її знаємо. Вона завжди була на світлій стороні європейської політики. І я вірю, що разом ми зможемо зробити ще дуже багато для захисту наших народів і для провалу усіх російських деструктивних зусиль. Головне – зберігати нашу єдність, а це обов'язково буде. Сьогодні ж говорив з президентом Франції Еммануелем Макроном більш ніж 1,5 години, дуже змістовні переговори. Передусім про ситуацію на фронті, про оборонну підтримку України. Я вдячний пану президенту та усьому народу Франції за незмінне прагнення захистити наші спільні європейські цінності, нашу спільну об'єднану Європу. Окремо і дуже детально зупинились на ситуації на Запорізькій атомній станції. Обмінялися оцінками результатів місії МАГАТЕ на станцію. До речі, завтра мають бути представлені висновки місії. Сподіваюсь, що вони будуть об'єктивними. Тим більше, що сьогодні через черговий російський провокативний обстріл була пошкоджена остання лінія енергопередачі, яка з'єднувала станцію з енергосистемою України. Знову, це вже вдруге, через російську провокацію Запорізька станція опинилась за крок від радіаційної катастрофи. Вважаю той факт, що Росія робить це саме зараз, саме напередодні висновків МАГАТЕ, дуже красномовним. Обстріл території ЗАЕС означає, що державі-терористу все одно, що скаже МАГАТЕ. Її не хвилює, що вирішить міжнародна спільнота. Росія зацікавлена тільки в тому, щоб ситуація залишилась найгіршою і найдовше. Це можна виправити тільки посиленням санкцій, тільки офіційним визнанням Росії державою-терористом на усіх рівнях. Україна має дуже чітку, прозору і чесну позицію. Поки ми контролювали станцію, там не було жодної загрози радіаційної катастрофи. Як тільки прийшла Росія, одразу став можливим найгірший сценарій, який тільки можна уявити. На це потрібна міжнародна реакція. Від ООН до кожної простої, нормальної держави. Збройні сили України продовжують послідовно, дуже ретельно, акуратно знищувати склади, бази, переправи, штаби окупантів. Російська армія прийшла на територію України, не чекаючи спротиву, а втече звідси, не маючи жодної іншої надії на порятунок. Я хочу ще раз подякувати усім нашим захисникам і захисницям, нашій розвідці, Службі безпеки України, які роблять все, щоб окупантам щодня ставало все складніше перебувати в Україні. Також хочу подякувати усім нашим людям на тимчасово окупованих територіях, які допомагають нашій армії знищувати об'єкти загарбників. А особливо хочу сьогодні подякувати бійцям однієї з наших реактивних артилерійських бригад, які своїм влучним вогнем знищили саме той російський склад, з якого окупанти брали ракети С-300 для бомбардування Харкова. Хороша річ МЛРС. Дякую, наші герої. Обов'язково буде окупантам відповідь і за сьогоднішній ракетний удар по Кривому, і за постійні обстріли Зеленодольська, обстріли Нікополя, Чернігівської, Сумської областей, Харківщини, міст Донбасу та усієї нашої території. Вічна слава усім, хто захищає Україну. Вічна пам'ять усім, хто віддав своє життя за незалежність нашої держави. Слава Україні!
So with that's the end of the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky here on day 195 of the war. And of course, that is the end of our news segment for today. I thank you so much for joining me to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of this channel. And of course, it has been an entire pleasure to report this war to y'all for the 195 days it's been going on. And we will be here until the very end of this war. Thank you all so much once again for watching, and I will see you all on tomorrow's live stream at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Everyone, have a great night, take care, and Slava Ukraini!